listening to your brain on air. The program will begin shortly. Enjoy.
Вы слушаете Your Brain on Air. Программа начнется совсем скоро. Приятного прослушивания.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Your Brain on Air. I'm your host, Ollie Vogt Larson, and happy Mystical Monday. What's so mystical about it, ladies and gentlemen? That you're alive, you're here with me, and we can recite and review, talk about whatever it is we feel like talking about. How about them Oscars, huh? If you don't have an ABC subscription, if you don't watch cable, if you're not 97 years old, you might not have seen it if you didn't record it on Hulu because for some reason it didn't let you watch it live. It made you record it. I managed to find someone who was on TikTok live streaming it, and they were from San Diego. We much appreciate it. They sound like they're going to make it a yearly thing. It's a fantastic arrangement. I'm not admitting to pirating it, but I watched it on somebody's live stream, so I don't know if that's illegal. It pretty much isn't. You see those Oscars? One battle after another, more like one Oscar after another. 6 out of the 13 nominations. Meanwhile, I think Sinners walks away with only 4 out of the 16 nominations it racked up. I mean, it was kind of pathetic, like a pathetic showing, but quite frankly, like I've been saying before, if you want a better version of what this film is, it's probably going to be cheaper to rent than Sinners will be because it's a fresh release. Go watch Dusk Till Dawn. It's a fantastic... Is it Roger Ramirez? Who directed this film? Dusk Till Dawn. It's a great... Yes, From Dusk Till Dawn, 1996. It is... 66% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's better than that, I promise you. George Clooney, Quentin Tarantino, Selma Hayek is in this film. Harvey Keitel, what? Danny Trejo, Tom Savini, like legends. You know what I mean? Robert Rodriguez. That's who did it. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that it's basically the same thing, and it actually has a beginning section that's even more interesting. It pulls you in. It's on the run from a bank robbery that left several police officers dead. Seth Gecko, George Clooney, and his paranoid loose cannon brother Richard, Quentin Tarantino, hightail it to the Mexican border. They kidnap preacher Jacob Fuller, Harvey Keitel, and his kids. The criminals sneak across the border in the family's RV, and they hole up in this topless bar. And unfortunately, the bar also happens to be home to a base gang of vampires, and the brothers and their hostages have to fight their way out. It's a very, very good movie. It is better than what Sinners proclaimed itself to be. It's a better film. Let's review. There's a couple moments from it that I think I'm going to play for you, just because they're fun. We will get to our award show, because we do have that eventually to get to, but we do have some news to sprinkle in because obviously we got to stay well informed, ladies and gentlemen. But we do have the Zeitgeisties coming up, or the Geisties if you want to be fun, celebrating the people's spirit of 2025 and our favorite people and our favorite situations all of last year. So ladies and gentlemen, join us for the last bit of the episode in order to see what 7 awards we pass out, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be great. Conan did wonderfully, as to be expected from him. You know, awkward comedy, he's goofy. That's what you have to expect from him. Let's play a couple of his jokes. Why not? Why don't we? Because I like to have fun. Monday, it's great.
The first time since 2012 that there are no British actors nominated for Best Actor or Best Actress. Yeah. British spokesperson said, yeah, well, at least we arrest our pedophiles. So,
not bad. Good joke. Solid enough. And then everybody overly clapped at it, you know, because it's Hollywood. They want to show that they're on the side of fighting pedophiles, even though they all work for one or are one. Whatever. Let's listen to this other joke. He slammed Timothee Chalemet once again. Listen, I don't think he slammed him. He just gave him a bit of a jab, a bit of a tease, and I understand. It's a relevant conversation. He just told the truth. He just was honest, where he was like, listen, when's the last time you went to the opera house? When's the last time that you signed your daughter up for ballet? Exactly. Quit lying. Everybody just wants to act all on their high horse. Doja Cat wants to sit in a towel, like, after a shower going, like opera is like 400 years old and ballet is like 500 years old. Like, I read a book once and I like know one thing.
Security is extremely tight tonight.
Security.
So that, yeah. I'm told there's concerns about attacks from both the opera and ballet communities.
How fun. That one's fun. It's a fun joke. It's fun.
bust out jazz.
That's good.
Security.
That was pretty good. Pretty good joke. Ladies and gentlemen, let's play this breakdown because I gave you a couple of the numbers about it. You know, one battle after another, cleaned up pretty dang well. But there was a couple big winners, a couple major ones. It ended up taking home the Best Picture. I predicted that. I think I did. I'm 90% sure I did. I'm going to go listen to my other episode and see if I actually was correct or not.
The Oscar goes to One Battle After Another.
This morning, One Battle After Another, the big winner at this year's Academy Awards, bringing home 6 Oscars.
What a night. You guys, let's have a martini. This is pretty amazing. Cheers. Thank you very
Cheers.
much.
Including Best Picture, the biggest prize of the night, on top of Best Supporting Actor for Sean Penn, and Best
Oh yeah, that douche wasn't there to pick it up for some reason. They just had his picture up.
Director for Paul Thomas
Best director, yeah.
Michael B. Jordan, in one of the most hotly contested categories.
Michael B. Jordan.
Pulling out the win.
Yep. I think I called that. I'm 90% sure I did. Oh man, yo. I will say, Adrian Brody's joke where, okay, this was kind of a redemption moment, and not in the sense where I'm fully in the side of like I loved it or whatever, but it was a moment where clearly he was playing into the joke. He swallowed his gum this time. He for some reason came out on stage with it to do a whole bit, and then he did a whole joke where he was like, "All right, I have one thing to say," and then they started playing the music to try to play him off. It was a joke playing into the fact that he always gives overbroad, long speeches and all that shit. I think this, like, it admittedly played pretty charming. It didn't go too horribly, but Adrian Brody's an actor, you know what I mean? He's a professional sociopath, so naturally, he's gonna do a scripted out bit. It's gonna come across pretty cool. It's gonna feel like you're watching a movie because that's what it is. It's all a big movie. Michael B. Jordan was winning for Best Actor, and Adrian Brody's kind of mug was just kind of, it was creepy. He's like, he has the effect of a haunted painting in the background.
Sidney Poitier, Denzel Washington,
Sidney Poitier.
Jamie Foxx, Forrest Whitaker, Will Smith, and to be amongst those giants, amongst those greats, amongst my ancestors, amongst my guys. Thank you, everybody in this room and everybody at home for supporting me over my career.
Ryan Coogler taking home his first Oscar for Original Screenplay.
Yeah.
All my cast and crew, please stand up. You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. Yo, you guys, oh my God.
Jesse Buckley.
Yeah, that was gonna happen.
Jessie Buckley's family flying in from Ireland to see her win Best Actress for Hamnet.
This is... This is really something.
Conan O'Brien playing host for the second year in a row.
Hey, another quick fun fact. Brad Pitt and I are the exact same age. True. I was told this by my wife with tears streaming down her face.
That's fine. Oh yeah, that one, Best Original Song. Congratulations to them.
Creating some history of its own. The first South Koreans to win Oscars for animated feature and original song.
Good for the South Koreans.
People make fun of me liking K-pop, but now everyone's singing our song.
Hey guys, I'm sorry to say it, Psy did it first, okay? Psy was sealing the Moon back in 2013.
Song, the heartbeat of this Oscars, and such powerful moments of all kinds, really making this an Oscars to remember, guys.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch. What a great Oscars we had.
What a great Oscars we had, ladies and gentlemen. I thought it went well, went decent enough. Let's get into some actual news, because we got to get out of the goy slop. We got to return back into the trudgery of policy. We got to return to the real world, geopolitical matters, and we got to have some fun with it, because it's Monday. We're not here to be doom and gloom. The rest of your day is already probably going to be that. So let's start with a topic as light as any will be for the rest of the day: the war with Iran. Let's go now. Begin. War in Iran threatens global economy. The U.S. has also deployed the Marines into the Middle East. Right now, the Middle East is at the center of a major international crisis. If you haven't been keeping up, or if you've had your head in the sand a bit, the United States and Israel have launched a joint military strike against Iran back on February 28th, kicking off what's being called the 2026 Iran War. This conflict has already sent thousands of airstrikes. Reportedly, over 15,000 targets hit in Iran alone, including key military sites, and even the killing of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, man. Rest in peace, fellow Ali. In the opening days, Iran has hit back hard with missiles and drone strikes against Israel, U.S. bases, and shipping lanes. The fighting shows no signs of slowing down. The biggest worry right now for the world is the impact on the global economy. Iran has effectively choked off the Strait of Hormuz. They're burning ships. They're going full pirates. Listen, I understand the Somalis. They're not getting much attention for being pirates anymore. At least we remember when he called them that during the State of the Union. That was a pretty baller moment. I will admit that. As someone who's been vocal on the issues in Minnesota regarding the Somali fraud, you know what I mean? I understand it's not all Somalis, but, you know, when you're dealing with the 89 percentile, what are we doing here, guys? It turns out Iran wants to take a little bit of the attention away. So we're having Pirates of the Strait of Hormuz. Disney they're getting to the writing table now. A narrow waterway that carries about 1/5 of the world's traded oil. So Jack Sparrow will be a skinny man from Tehran. He will ride about on not a ship, but a constantly almost sunken, what is it called, a dinghy, and like he'll have a band of 4 other guys, all of which will be wearing towels. They will have those little what are those pants from Aladdin, where they're kind of baggy and stuff. They are going to have the curved swords, and they're going to take over ships in the Strait of Hormuz. That will be Pirates of the Strait of Hormuz, curse of the black oil, curse of the black gold. That's what it's going to be called. Pirates of the Strait of Hormuz and the curse of the black gold. Attacks on tankers and energy infrastructure have disrupted shipping, driven oil prices soaring well over the $100 a barrel, threshold we generally wanted, below or at in recent days, and caused chaos in air travel across the region. Experts warn that this could ripple out to higher costs for everything from gasoline to food to airline tickets, potentially dragging on economies worldwide if the conflict drags on or worsens. In the response to Iran's actions, the escalating threats, especially around the critical strait, the U.S. military is ramping up its presence. The Pentagon has ordered about 2,500 Marines, along with an ambitious assault ship like the USS Tripoli and the elements of the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit to head toward the Middle East. This adds to the more than 50,000 U.S. troops already in the region and gives commanders more options for things like protecting shipping routes, conducting raids, or responding to attacks. President Trump has described recent U.S. strikes as devastating successes, vowing to protect American interests and allies. Though official stress, this isn't necessarily a full-ground invasion yet. We're getting there, guys. I'm not saying that you're going to have a flag on your mantle anytime soon for your son, but it's not. It's right now. Start sweating a little bit. Start smoking in your kitchen. You know, when you smoke out the like right on top of the. It's like normally right on top of the sink. You lean out the window and then you Febreze it right after. So you're like right before your kids come home, so they don't know that mom's smoking anymore. That's what we all have to do to manage our stresses. Like guys. The deployment signals the war could enter a more intense phase. Risks of further escalation involving Iran's proxies or even wider regional fallout. For now, the focus is on containing the chaos in the Gulf while the world watches oil markets and hopes for some sort of path to de-escalation. It's a fast-moving story. The real consequences are far beyond the region. We are going to continue to update you as it goes on. Let's hear a little bit from official news sources so nobody thinks that I'm making shit up.
War is now threatening the global economy, upending energy markets, supply chains, and now fears of a possible food crisis. President Trump is asking other countries to send warships to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent, Selena Wang.
Tonight, President Trump scrambling to ease oil prices as Americans feel the pain at the pump. The national average for gas now $3.67.
$3 and what? What did you just say?
At the pump, The national average for gas now $3.67, up 73 cents since the war began.
Nice.
Diesel nearing $5 a gallon, driving up transportation costs, with UPS and FedEx announcing new shipping surcharges. At the center of the crisis, the Strait of Hormuz, where roughly 1/5 of the world's oil flows, now at a virtual standstill from Iran's attacks on ships. Trump now calling on other countries to send warships to help reopen the strait, boasting that many countries will do so, and hopefully China, France, Japan, South Korea, the UK, and others that are affected by this artificial constraint will send ships to the area. The impact already
We'll
rippling
see.
through the economy.
We're seeing everything from freight, shipping costs, to transportation costs, prices at the gas pumps, to what you will see.
Guys, it's winning. You're winning. You just don't understand. We're winning. This is what winning feels like. You guys are just not used to it. And this is why you're going to start going, please, we can't take more winning. This is too much winning.
The grocery store, everything that gets moved is going to be affected by these price hikes.
No, it's winning.
Now under pressure too from those higher transportation costs, and because
No.
1/3 of the world's fertilizer
No, you guys-
ingredients moves through the Strait of Hormuz.
You guys just don't
The
get it.
administration saying they're ready to help farmers.
The president is very aware of these challenges and these issues. We are very close to having an announcement on some solutions.
The Trump administration claims they expected Iran would target the strait, raising questions from experts about why they weren't more prepared. This week, the administration acknowledging the U.S. Navy is not yet ready to escort oil tankers through the strait. Driving the volatility, Trump's conflicting messages on how long this war will last for. And with tonight, new controversy over President Trump's Political Action Committee using the war in Iran to raise money. A new fundraising email uses an image
good time.
from the dignified transfer of the first 6 U.S. service members killed in this war, and
Like, guys, they're killing our boys. Send some money.
offers donors access to private national security briefings.
Listen, you guys just don't get it. This is what winning feels like. You guys just aren't used to winning. You guys aren't used to winning, so this is how it's supposed to feel. Obama wasn't winning this hard, you know what I mean? With the immigration and whatnot, when he was abusing the sheriff system, making your brown neighbors disappear quietly. He wasn't winning this hard, you know what I mean? He wasn't beating their faces in the daylight. He wasn't winning this hard on the economy. He was blowing up university students. He killed a 16-year-old with a drone, but quietly. He quietly blew that kid up. And then Trump, he's like, you guys just aren't used to winning. Winning is like, it's the Reagan era. We're blowing up third world countries, and it's in the newspaper, and you can read about it. But most people, they're gonna be focused on the fact that new Coke has a new flavor, and that's exactly why there's new things at McDonald's coming out. There's new products. Ben Stiller has a soda called Stiller's, I think. And he's doing like a thing where he sells it in a grocery store. This is what I mean. It's goy slop. It's all the big puppet show. He's like pointing at the camera. Yes, he's doing the Zoolander face. I've seen this on Instagram. He does the Zoolander face, and then he picks up the can, and then he shows it to you. This is exactly why they do all of this. It's a massive distraction to show you the economy is really doing fantastically, and to distract you from the fact that there are U.S. Marines deployed into the Middle East. Let's cover this.
We begin with the war in Iran, now entering its third week. Both sides digging in. Tehran is now threatening retaliation.
Remember when he said like 2 weeks ago that it was nearing its conclusion?
The U.S. attacked a critical oil hub. The U.S. striking 90 targets on an island which serves as Iran's main oil export terminal. Israel congratulating the U.S. on the strikes. The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad once again coming under fire as a missile struck a helipad. President Trump saying that Iran is totally defeated and wants a deal, but not one that he would accept. And the U.S. is now sending more troops to the Middle East, including more than 2,000 Marines. We have team coverage tonight, and Marcus Moore leads us off from Doha, Qatar.
Tonight, the U.S. escalating its offensive. Iran defiant, repeating the warning that any strike on its energy infrastructure would be met with attacks on American-linked energy interests. Overnight, the U.S. striking Iran's Karach Island, the country's main hub for oil production. President Trump posting video of projectiles hitting the airport and other sites, CENTCOM saying the U.S. struck 90 Iranian military targets on the island. Hours later, in an apparent act of retaliation, drones striking the UAE's main oil hub of Fujairah, the emirate forced to suspend some of its oil operations.
Crazy.
And tonight, with the war now entering its third week, President Trump saying Iran is totally defeated.
Yep.
He wants a deal, but a deal that he would not accept.
It's defeated.
5,000 U.S. military personnel, including 2,200 Marines, are headed to the region, joining the more than 50,000 American troops already there.
Winning.
This as the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad came under attack yet again. Smoke seen billowing from the compound early Saturday. Here in Doha, there is growing unease about the near-constant Iranian attacks that have shaken residents and disrupted livelihoods. Iran's retaliation crippling the region's airspace and effectively closing the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil flows. The closure taking its toll on the Gulf states and the rest of the world. Now France and Italy reportedly in talks with Iran to reopen the strait. Earlier this week, CENTCOM announced that they had destroyed more than a dozen Iranian ships that could be used to lay mines, but the threat still remains. And back in the U.S., these 4 decommissioned minesweepers are awaiting dismantling in Philadelphia. They removed from their base in Bahrain, where they have been stationed in the event of a disruption in the Strait of Hormuz.
It's quite possible that Iran will continue mining the Straits of Hormuz. And they can do so within a matter of hours. They have hundreds and thousands of small boats that all have the capability to do that.
Well, good for them.
And with Iran's foreign minister says that the Strait of Hormuz is open to all vessels except those with links to the U.S. and its allies. And in a post today online, President Trump called on China, France, the UK, and other countries to send ships to the region to help keep the strait open.
Sheesh, that's nerve-wracking, man. More nerve-wracking than the fact that what's her name? Sanae Takaichi, the Japan's prime minister. She's apparently having health issues. She apparently only sleeps 3 hours a night. That's bad. That's really, really bad for you. And I'm a person who used to stay up late when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I wasn't getting very much sleep because I was staying up. I was playing video games on my phone. Whatever you do when it's middle school, high school, it's like you just chill out in the middle of the night because you're supposed to be asleep and you don't feel like it. Sometimes you look out your window. You're up to just whatever you want to, and that's exactly it. I wasn't sleeping very much, but I wasn't running a country, and I didn't have that stress when I was a kid. I had to be up to ride the bus in the morning, but you know what I mean? I get 7 to 8 hours every night now. This woman is in her 50s, 60s based on her appearance, and I know that she's a little older than that, maybe. I don't know. Because they age very beautifully. You know what I mean? That's all I'm trying to say. She looks like she takes very good care of her skin, and it's awesome. Good for her. I just want her to be getting more rest. She's making me nervous, honestly, ladies and gentlemen. And this situation is making me nervous. We don't have time to cover her. I was gonna play something from the BBC about, not BBC. It was some news article talking about her struggling to stand up in a chair earlier this week or something. I don't know. We'll cover it later eventually. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure we'll cover it after she suffers some medical event at some state dinner. That's my assumption. Ladies and gentlemen, we actually have room for an ad because this is a big show today. We have obviously the Zeitgeisties later. We have these stories we're covering. So we do actually have a joint partnership that I have a sponsorship that I'm actually personally involved in with some fellas that I met down in Miami earlier this year. There are some great guys, honestly. I go down there because it's a beautiful area for if you want a vacation when it's really, really cold up here, you know what I mean, in the northern states, head on down. Palm Beach, the Tampa area. I was going to say head East Coast because the West Coast is the one that always gets the hurricanes. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, are you tired of your portfolio being bogged down by boring tangible assets like gold, real estate, functional economies, fiat currency, all that sort of junk? Then it's time to ascend to the digital stratosphere with myself and the Trump brothers' new joint venture, Patriot Plus Coin, the only decentralized currency backed by an unwavering confidence of a family that has definitely never had any side gigs go sideways. You know what I mean? Our revolutionary legacy ledger technology ensures that your life savings are secure securely stored on a proprietary cloud-based vault that we promise 100% is unhackable unless someone forgets the password or the SEC gets a warrant. I'm really nervous about that. That's been making us sweat a little bit. But it's not just a currency. It's a lifestyle. It's a choice for the man who wants to look his grandkids in the eye and say, I traded our generational wealth for a JPEG of a gold-plated eagle. Join our exclusive inner circle of a crypt bro investment banker firm where we are replacing traditional financial advisors with a group of guys named ChatGPT, ladies and gentlemen. They only communicate in rocket emojis and all caps hype posts. While the deep state wants you to stick the FDIC insured counts and whatnot, we offer the thrill of a 400% volatility spike every time a family member hits send on a social media platform. Do not worry about the fine print regarding liquidity events or the unauthorized rug pulls. Just focus on the feeling of becoming a truly digital pioneer. Sign up now and receive the limited edition Golden Mane NFT that mathematically is guaranteed to be worth exactly what the next guy is willing to pay for it, ladies and gentlemen. Please head on over to Patriot Plus Coin and just invest as much as you possibly can. We're really trying to take this thing off the ground. I'm gonna be really honest with you. The only thing that's keeping this business venture up right now is the dream of 3 crazy guys, me, Eric, and Don. Guys, let's help us make our dream come true, ladies and gentlemen. Let's cover something that actually it's probably just as worthy to throw your money in. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Minnesota taxes. Lawmakers are seeking unredacted reports on fraud in the state. What is going on with that? Let's cover it together. Go.
Tonight, we're asking, what the fraud? There are calls for more transparency as the state works to address fraud in Medicaid programs. A consultant identified millions of dollars in payments that didn't meet DHS policies.
But that report was heavily redacted, meaning information was not shared with the public. And as Callan Gray reports, lawmakers feel they're being left in the dark as they work to put safeguards in place. Callan is live at the state capitol.
Well, actually, you're going to pass it to me because I'm going to read a bit of what this says. Minnesota lawmakers are turning up the heat on the state's executive branch, demanding to see what lies beneath the heavy black lines of the $2.3 million fraud report. Last Thursday, the Minnesota House passed a bill in a bipartisan 107-27 vote that would force the Department of Human Services to hand over an unredacted copy of an audit conducted by the third-party firm Optum. OPTUM. Republican Representative Jeff Backer made national headlines during the committee hearing when he held up a completely blacked out page of a document asking how his colleagues could possibly fix a $1 billion problem when they aren't allowed to see it. The audit in question was commissioned to investigate fraud, waste, and abuse across 14 high-risk Medicaid programs following the series of scandals that have plagued the state's social services. While in public versions of the report suggest a strong safeguard that could save Minnesota taxpayers over $1 billion in just the last 4 years, legislators argue that the most critical details, including a specific policy failure and oversight gaps, remain hidden. And the bill's sponsor, Representative Joe Schumacher, not the one who directed a lot of movies, not Joel Schumacher, Joe, emphasized that while the public shouldn't have a roadmap for fraud, lawmakers need a full picture to craft effective legislation and to hold state agencies accountable. This push for transparency is coming at a time of extreme tension between St. Paul and Washington. The U.S. House Oversight Committee recently released an explosive interim report accusing Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison, of being aware of widespread fraud as early as 2019, but failing to act, I bet. With billions of dollars at stake and a new state director of program integrity calling the current system overwhelmed, the battle over the redacted document has become a centerpiece of the 2026 legislative season. As the bill moves to the Senate, a fundamental question remains: who exactly in the state is trying to protect? Who exactly is the state trying to protect with all of the black ink? That is a great question. Go.
DHS has testified here this session that lawmakers are treated like the public when it comes to accessing security data, which is a reason why they received a redacted report. But lawmakers say they can't do their job until they get full access.
Why do you need it?
Page after page of redactions.
What is the information we're even looking at? There's so much black, it's hard to even know.
This report released earlier this year by Optum, a consultant hired by the state to review 14 programs flagged as high risk for fraud by the Department of Human Services. Optum outlining vulnerabilities and policy recommendations. Line after line covered in black.
What were the concerns that they saw, and what would be the solutions to those concerns?
DFL Representative Kim Hicks voted for a bill this week to require the release of the full unredacted report to legislators. It passed on the House floor with bipartisan support.
The bill is passed.
Now it's up to the Senate.
I want to know what they have identified as key vulnerabilities and also how we can change policy to save taxpayers money.
Republican Senator Jordan Rasmussen says, however, the Senate version would unredact the report for the public to access too. Why do you feel it's important that the public have access to those parts?
Minnesotans are asking, how did billions of their hard-earned tax dollars go to criminals instead of Minnesotans who need our human services programs?
Good question.
And they deserve answers.
But Hicks says there's a reason the House version moved forward with public access limits.
If the information tells fraudsters how to get around our systems, I'm not sure I want that to be public, especially if we haven't been able to fix the system.
She says public access could come later. For now,
we really do need the information.
Those policy recommendations could help us make the right decisions to stop the fraud and to hold those responsible to account.
Rasmussen says Republicans are ready to pass this. It's currently still in committee in the Senate. He says he has reached out to DHS to see if there is anything in this report that would be sensitive to the public or create vulnerabilities. He says a meeting has not yet been scheduled with the state agency. Reporting live from the state capitol tonight, Callan Gray, 5 Eyewitness News.
Thanks, Callan.
Thanks, Callan. We really appreciate it. Yeah, Governor Tim Walz, he's not having a great time of it as of late, refusing to acknowledge fraud, all that sort of situation. Yeah, we'll actually play a clip of that. Why not?
Mounting evidence of massive fraud in the state. Key Minnesota state officials completely ghosting a major hearing on taxpayer abuses, theft, fraud. Minnesota State House Republicans say they're furious.
Unfortunately, DHS didn't show up, and I'm incredibly frustrated because as I was walking out the door, they walked into the next hearing in the exact same room. And I asked them, why didn't you show up at our hearing? And they said, oh, they were busy. I said, did you have a different committee you were testifying before? No, they just ghosted us.
Federal prosecutors estimate that as much as $9 billion may have been stolen from the state's Medicaid programs.
For more, let's bring in Minnesota State Senator Jordan Rasmussen. Great to see you, Jordan. This is really on brand for the corruption that is Minnesota. No offense to the fine state and Brian and all of his family members there. But what do you make of these officials just not showing up?
We've seen the Walz administration refuse to acknowledge that there's a fraud problem here in Minnesota. If you go on to Governor Walz's Department of Human Services website, they say that Minnesota is leading the nation in fraud detection, even though we know billions of dollars have been stolen from taxpayers.
Well, actually, we're leading the nation in detection because no other state can compare. That's the thing.
We also had a taxpayer-funded audit report that the Walz administration commissioned, and they refused to give the legislature the details.
No other state is this good for thievery.
They redacted almost the entire thing. So instead of addressing this problem and taking real action, they're trying to ignore it while Walz waits out the end of his term.
So that's what I get concerned about. I'm a fellow Minnesotan, okay, and I want to see fraud prosecuted in the state. But I feel like these guys are kind of running out the shot clock or something here. And unless you start doing things like subpoenaing these people, they're never going to show up and answer it. Is there a bigger hammer you can bring down to start making some of these state officials show up and answer these questions?
Yes, the legislature has the ability to subpoena if there are Democrats
Arrest
that vote
Tim
for the subpoena
Walz.
as well. And I would guess that in the coming weeks, if these officials refuse to show up, that Republicans will be moving to subpoena them, and we'll ask our Democrat colleagues to join us in that accountability to not continue blocking this and protecting the Walz administration.
Jordan, are these officials afraid of going on the record in any way, shape, or form for fear of future prosecution and implicating themselves?
Keith certainly is.
These officials don't want to address their failures to protect taxpayers and the Minnesotans who rely on these
Well,
services.
Keith Ellison is just like, he's terrified you're going to see that he like worked with the Bloods. He's going to be terrified that you see that he worked with the gangs of Minneapolis. Let's look up. I think you can Keith Ellison gang connections. This is not hard to find. There we go. The main historical allegation centers around Sheriff Willis, a convicted murderer and former leader of the Vice Lords, a notorious street gang. In the 1990s, Ellison, a then civil rights attorney, worked with Willis through the United Peace Coalition, a group of gang leaders, including the Vice Lords, Bloods, and the Gangster Disciples. I mean... After 1992 murder of Minneapolis Police Sheriff Jerry Half, some individuals linked to the coalition were implicated, and Ellison participated in a rally supporting the group. Ellison also represented or defended members associated with the Vice Lords in legal matters. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. In 2018, they confirmed these associations, but framed them as a part of Ellison's broader criminal justice reform and community mediation efforts at the time, not direct gang memberships. This is according to the paid-off Minnesota Star Tribune, by the way. It's completely paid off by the government. It is a psyop of the Walz regime. That is a fact. You can look it up yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, we are hot and bothered. We need to stop talking about the fraud, quite frankly. It's enough. You know what I mean? We're having too escalated of a time. We need to talk about something different. We need to talk about maybe a little bit of the rapid fire section of today's headlines. We'll get through that, and then we will cover our final section of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Let's begin. European governments, they're split over the war involvement. If you don't know, the European leaders are struggling with how much to support the U.S. strategy against Iran. Some governments are reluctant to send warships or to join with military coalition, but are considering alternative measures such as minesweeping or maritime security support. The debate highlights the growing risky tensions between Washington and European allies over escalation risks. There's also a lot of domestic political backlash over the war powers in Iran. In Washington, lawmakers from both parties are arguing over the president's authority to expand military operations against Iran without congressional approval. Critics say Congress has ceded too much power to the executive branch and are pushing for votes to restrict further military escalation. Curious. There's a media freedom dispute in the United States as well. A major domestic controversy has erupted after FCC leadership has threatened broadcasters they could lose their license if they spread what the administration calls fake news about the Iran war. What are we talking about? Several lawmakers argue that this move could violate the free speech protections and are calling for investigations or resignations, making the media regulation a major political flashpoint. That is going to be nerve-wracking. So the FCC leadership, apparently they're sending out warnings to broadcasters about whether or not, if you spread what we call misinformation, disinformation, which are two bullshit terms that barely mean anything whenever they're used by either party. They're just a way to dismiss something that the other person doesn't, like to, take in or consider. That's, I'm sorry, that's most of the time. It's information taken out of context or formulated a certain way. Misinformation is a buzz term. It's overused, quite frankly. U.S. Senator Tom Tillis, announces political exit. Tom Tillis, a Republican senator from North Carolina, announced that he will not run for re-election after clashes with Trump and intra-party tensions. In recent remarks, Tillis sharply sharply criticized figures in his own party and signaled frustrations with the direction of U.S. politics. His departure is potentially opening a competitive Senate seat ahead of the 2026 midterms. There's also a severe storm disrupting U.S. government operations. This severe storm system moving across the U.S. East Coast has forced school closures and disrupted federal government activity. In Washington, D.C., severe winds and potential tornadoes threats have led to the cancellation of congressional votes due to the travel disruptions and safety concerns. The weather events highlighting how natural disasters can temporarily halt political operations. Very, very fun. Ladies and gentlemen, I think with a while left of our episode, we should just do it because it's, you know what I mean? We've been waiting for it. It's March 16th. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first Your Brain on Air Awards, the Zeitgeisties, or the Geisties if you're feeling fun. If you don't know what this is, we're celebrating the biggest disruptors of our spirit of the times of last year. We have 7, a very Masonic number, 7 awards to give out tonight, ladies and gentlemen, but do not worry, that will surely grow as the times go on. Let's begin with our first category, why don't we? Shall we, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, we shall. Thank you very much, everybody. First, ladies and gentlemen, the most defining cultural flashpoint for the moment or object that everyone argued over the most. The nominees are Sydney Sweeney for having clean jeans, Katy Perry for the space incident of April 2025, Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez resurfaced tweets, Blake Lively for Cunty Supreme, and Selena Gomez for crying over ICE doing their job. And the winner is, ladies and gentlemen, Sydney Sweeney for having clean jeans. Congratulations, Sydney. We're all very happy for you. I'm sure your publicist is as well. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to our second award of the night. I love the aesthetic we're already setting. Very drab, very calm, relaxed. It's the complete opposite of the pizzazz and glamour of the Oscars. For our second award, the most controversial trial of the year, honoring the courtroom sagas that gripped the nation and changed our hearts. The nominees are Eric Adams for Scammers in NYC, Brian Kohberger, accused of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students in 2022, Brian Walsh, accused of killing and dismembering his wife Anna Walsh in Massachusetts, Sean P. Diddy Combs for accused of having too much fun and being too cool. The Menendez brothers retrial, you thought, ha, nice try. And the winner is Sean P. Diddy Combs for being accused of having too much fun and being too cool. Congratulations, Sean. We're all very happy for you, ladies and gentlemen. And for our third award, Biggest Alliance to Beef Arc for dramatic flip-flops in power couples. The nominees are Taylor and Blake Lively for Treacherous Whores, Kanye and Everyone for Why Are You Doing This?, Drake and Kendrick for The Most Annoying Person You Know Is Obsessed With This, Trump and Elon for Schemers in Paradise, the United States and their representatives for We Want Different Amounts of Accountability for Pedophiles. And the winner is Trump and Elon for Schemers in Paradise. Congratulations. I'm sure they will appreciate another award to add to their shelves, ladies and gentlemen, with their Emmys, you know what I mean, for The Apprentice. This is one of my favorite categories, ladies and gentlemen. The most shocking act of political violence, to celebrate the moments that should have brought us together, but we couldn't help ourselves. The nominees are the assassination of Melissa Hortman, Minneapolis, Minnesota, the arson at the Pennsylvania governor's residence, the New Orleans truck attack, Bourbon Street, the fire at the New Mexico GOP headquarters, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Utah University. And the winner is the assassination of Charlie Kirk at Utah University. Congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a big one, wasn't it? And for our fifth award, Best Use of Executive Power to Disturb the Peace, celebrating the bold moves like sweeping tariffs, government shutdowns, or controversial appointments that have redefined daily life. The nominees are the kitchen table tariffs of April 2025, the 43-day silence, the longest shutdown in U.S. history, the extreme vetting and mass deportation orders, the anti-woke personal purge of early 2025, the Doge deep tissue audit, and the winner is the extreme vetting and mass deportation orders in a landslide, quite frankly. This wasn't even hard. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful night. I've been having such a great time. This is honestly probably one of my favorite things I've done on this show, ladies and gentlemen. I think we should go ahead and move on to our 6th award. For most polarizing political influencer of the year. This is for the figure who turned every tweet, X post, YouTube video into a political battlefield. Didn't even have to be political, just had to be fun. The nominees are Elon Musk for X tweets, Laura Loomer for her loudness, Ye West for truth-telling, Charlie Kirk for X tweets, Donald Trump for Truth Social posts, and the winner is Elon Musk for his X tweets. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not hard when you own it and you artificially inflate your numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, for our 7th and final award of the night, this award is a special category for enduring figures whose actions have rippled through the decades. It could go for anyone from music moguls to political operatives who keep dominating the discourse and will continue to redefine our lifetimes for generations to come. The Lifetime Disturbance Achievement Award. The nominees are Charlie Kirk for Turning Point USA, Benjamin Netanyahu for various heinous acts, Sean Diddy Combs for An Innocent Man, Benny Blanco for being a big Jewish hippie, and Caitlyn Jenner for womanhood and being the best of what the other gender can be. And the Geistie goes to Benjamin Netanyahu for various heinous acts. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a lifetime coming, and we are very honored to present him with our final Zeitgeistie of the night. Benjamin Netanyahu, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations. One more for Bibi. One more for Bibi, my audience. One more. Give it. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. We figured it out. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been great. What a fun thing to do. You know what I mean? We're going to do it next year. Might as well. It's the Sunday after Oscars. That's what we're going to set it for every year, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, you know what? 7 categories. Maybe we'll do 10 next year. Maybe we'll do however many the year after that. Who knows? We had fun. That's all that I know. And I hope that you did too, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much for joining me on today's shorter than average episode. But quite frankly, I had to throw together the award show. And that's a lot to throw together, especially the morning after the Oscars. I wanted to make sure that there weren't going to be any terrorist attacks and I wouldn't have to give that the most whatever. And never mind, actually, that would be 2026. That I didn't have any actual excuse for doing it that as late as I did. Never mind. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your Monday. I hope that it goes well. I hope that you have fun. I hope that whatever it is you do it with grace and you do it with love, and because that's the only honest thing that there is in this world anymore, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back at it again, covering the headlines, doing whatever it is we do Monday through Friday. Subscribe if you want more. Ring the bell for notifications, like if you liked it. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been Ollie Volt Larson with your Brain on Air and with the Zeitgeistie Awards, the first annual of 2026, celebrating 2025, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your Monday. Thank you so much for listening, and bye-bye.